All right, guys, let's talk a little bit about AR preterite tense verbs. So Unit 2 really is completely focused on regular preterite tense ARs, okay? So we are not talking about irregulars, we're not talking about stem changers, nothing like that, just AR preterite tense verbs, okay? So that is what we'll be looking on here. So we know this already, but in Spanish, we conjugate verbs in order to say who is doing the action and when the action is done. So from one conjugation, so like let's look at habla, for example, that one word actually gives us a lot of information. So it tells us that ending tells us who is talking and when they are talking. So remember, A is the he or she or it ending in the present tense. And so we know it's he or she talks. If we look at hablo, again, that ending tells us, hey, this is I talk in the present tense. If we put an accent over that O, all of a sudden it changes things. But the way it's written just tells us, nope, this is I talk. And again, with hablamos, we say we talk. Again, in one conjugation, we learn what's going on, who's doing it, and when is doing it in one word. So conjugations tell us a lot of information. There are many different tenses in Spanish and in English. Some tenses are used to describe present tense actions, while others are used to describe the past. Others describe future, and still others describe possible or hypothetical actions. So I think when we think about tenses in English, we typically think of the present, the past, and the future, right? And we just kind of sum it up into those three tenses. Well, in reality, there's a lot of sub-tenses, I suppose, if you want to go that way. We just commonly think of them as those three, right? There are actually a lot more, though. In Spanish, we typically go through 10-ish tenses just in high school, and English has just basically equally as many. Again, but you can kind of group them into the three main categories of the present, the past, and the future. So the preterite tense is one of the tenses that is used to describe past actions. Specifically, it is used to talk about things that happened at a specific time in the past. All actions that are described using the preterite tense have a clear beginning and a clear end. They started and ended in the past. And I know that that seems obvious, right? It's the past tense. But you have to remember that there are two past tenses, right? There's the preterite, which is what we're talking about right now, and there's the imperfect. And so we have to know that the preterite tense is the past tense that talks about specific times, and we know those things are completed. They are done. There is no question about it, okay? And if you can remember those two biggies about the preterite tense, you're going to be a lot better off. Again, when we're talking about the preterite tense, they are completed actions. So, for example, I went to the store. Great. I went there. It's done. We ate ice cream together. Cool. We know it's done. Did you find the book? Well, we're asking, did you complete that thing? Or he ran in the track meet. Okay, well, the track meet is done, so we know it's finished. Here are some trigger words for the preterite tense. Now, when I say trigger, okay, a trigger word, it means that when we see these words, that is going to tell us you have to use the preterite tense right now. So if you can remember what words trigger the preterite tense, it actually makes it a lot easier to know what tense you need to go into. So the first one here is ayer. I don't think that's a new word anymore. Ayer means yesterday. So if we see the word ayer, it means, hey, use the preterite tense because we have a specific time. Another one, anoche. Anoche means last night. Okay, again, when did it happen? Last night. We have a very specific time. Entonces means then. Okay, and then that thing happened. La semana pasada, or el mes pasado, or el verano pasado. Any of those kinds of phrases tell us, oh, when did that happen? It happened last week. It happened last month. It happened last summer. It happened last year. Whatever it was, we have a very specific time. So we can say without question, oh, well, it happened at this moment. Okay, some others. Esta mañana means this morning. This morning, I woke up at 7 o'clock. Okay, well, when did that happen? This morning. which is done. Hace 2 días. 2 days ago, I brushed my dog. Again, when was that? It was 2 days ago. Hace un año. A year ago. A year ago, I went to Florida. When did that happen? A year ago. We know it's done. El otro día. The other day, I was riding in my car when I saw a chupacabra. When did that happen? The other day. Great, that's done. Then the final one here is de repente. And de repente means suddenly. I was driving in my car when suddenly I saw a chupacabra. Bueno, suddenly. That's going to be another trigger phrase for the preterite tense. As with the present tense, there are different preterite tense endings for verbs that end in AR, like hablar, and verbs that end in ER or IR, like comer and vivir. There are also irregular verbs that do not follow the same conjugation patterns as the regular verbs. Okay, some examples of irregular verbs in the preterite tense that we have already learned is fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fueron, right? We've also learned vio, vino, hizo, and dijo. Okay, so far those are the irregulars that we have learned, but we're not talking about those this unit. We're just talking about our regular preterite tense endings. Specifically, we are talking about the AR verb endings. So this is your chart when we are talking about AR preterite tense. So for the yo, your ending is e with an accent. For tú, haste. El, ella, usted, o. Nosotros, hamos, and ellos, ustedes, haron. A little side note, remember yo means I, tú is you, él, he, ella, she, usted, you formal, nosotros, we, ellos, they, and we'll see ellas here, right? That's just they, meaning them, like them, the girls. And then ustedes means you all. So this is going to be the chart that we're seeing often in, well, all the time for preterite tense AR verbs. Haste, o, hamos, haron. You need to commit that chart to memory. All right, it's 5 endings. You are perfectly capable of remembering them. Okay, haste, o, hamos, haron. Get those in your head. Notice that the nosotros ending is the same in both the present and the preterite tense. So, well, how are we going to know the difference? You guys know the answer to that. We're going to use context. Okay, so this means that you need to use contextual clues to determine which tense is being used when you read and hear a verb that ends in amos. Okay, so if it says hoy comemos pizza, well, we know hoy means today. So today we eat pizza. Bueno, but if we see ayer comimos pizza, well, we know it's yesterday, right? Because, hey, we ate pizza. An AR example of that, hoy hablamos en la clase de español. Today, we talk in Spanish class. Ayer hablamos en la clase de español. Yesterday, we talked in Spanish class. So pay attention to the context because it's going to tell you what you need to know. All right, so then on your okay, so let's just take a look at a few of these sentences. Okay, so we see the sentence, hablé con mi amigo. Hablé, well, we're looking at the ending, and that tells us, hey, it means I talked. So I talked with my friend. Okay, I talked or I spoke with my friend. Caminaste a casa. Again, pay attention to that ending. Haste is the to ending. So caminaste, you walked to your house or you walked home. Gritó a su hermano. Gritó, he or she yelled at his or her brother. Lloraron en el cine. They cried in the theater. Remember, cine, your cognate there would be cinema. Notice that the ending of the verb tells you who did the action and that the action was done in the past. The stem of the verb is what tells you what that person did. Okay? If we're looking at this verb, habler, okay, remember your ending is this guy right here, this E with an accent. That means that whatever's left, so the habl, that would be your stem. So once you get rid of the ending, that's your stem, and then the ending is the ending. Okay, so when we look at these verbs then, she talked comes from the verb hablar. Well, think to yourself, well, what ending do I need to put here? So just like when we did present tense verbs, the first step is to drop off your ending and then replace it with the new one. So she talked, habló. They jumped. Saltar means to jump. Well, how would we say they jumped? Saltaron. We thought comes from pensar. So pensar means to think, right? Pensive, to think. Well, we thought then would be pensamos. I cried. To cry is llorar. Lloré. How about you sang? So cantar means to sing. We wanted to go to the to form, so cantaste. And so class A, that is pretty much the long and short on preterite tense regular AR verbs. All right, so just like in the present tense, we follow our steps, drop off your AR ending, add the new ones on. Those new ones again are aste, o, amos, aron. All right, hope you're doing well.